PROUST armchair, was born in 1978 when I had to do objects according to my intention, that it were neither drawn nor directly designed but only designed. So, I reasoned about an author that I was very interested in, Marcel Proust, and I had thought of making him the object armchair. Then I made a king of Med. I connected a fake armchair 700, bought in the Veneto region, to a piece of a lawn of Signac, the French point guard more or less of Proust's age, thinking that the world and nebulosis of Proust coincided with the nebulous world of Signac, and also with H indeterminacy of an armchair. So the result was an object, a little leavening, a little pulviscular, romantic, that A is not identified either as a design object, nor as painting, nor as a sculpture. When I studied and still study Proust, the environments where Proust lived, and the places where he lived, seem through his descriptions extremely imaginative. In fact, seeing them are simple things, to the limit of insignificant. He did not know how to live. He only knew how to protect his brain. So much so that he also had the fear of by heart then and button windows, close them filled with fabrics to muffle noises. This is not aesthetic. He did not have the aesthetics of the furniture. The opposite is that of D'Annunzio. Evidently had this a maniac hyper-super furniture aesthetics. Created the creative environment in a very different way from Proust. The creative environment of D'Annunzio is a kind of explosion, prophesied of his imaginary eye of symbolist. Because here, there is not a blade of grass that is not a symbol. For D'Annunzio were the anecdotes that were worth. It is said that I am one who works with colors. In fact, not true. I do the slalom between colors. I go around it, I slide around it, and I have never been able to systematize them, but not even to treat them physiologically. I am more interested in irritating colors that are bad for the eyes, that create suspense, that in their suits make kitsch. This is my way of working on colors, certainly little by little. I have done a lot of experiences. I'm really interested in colors of the central parts of the world. Mexico, the colors of the poor. No. For D'Annunzio we cannot speak of the color of the poor, except that it has been repeatedly not. He was always a rich man on the run. I don't know how to say him. Then this hyper of his. Two objects to fabrics to colors. Two anthropological facts. Brought it making slogans. Words. Was a great inventor of words. And among them he invented some colors that he used for the clothes of his friends and and among them the violated, impredendence and prosties. There was a moment of parallelism when Avannunzio had fled to relax in Paris and then outside of Paris, where he lived in a very rich way. Wrote in French, things also recited. From Sarah Bernardet. I think. A Proust saw them. I do not know with what types of comments. Certainly, they are not to guys who could get along, in my opinion. Not to interrupt this wonderful story, I give the floor immediately to the architect Mendini. I found myself in front of this word product, of which I have been asked to speak in a semi-obligatory manner. I like a lot of words and I can talk about many words, without a piece of paper in front in this case. I had to take some notes. I have been working for so many years. I have very rarely used the word product. For the things I do, I use the word a lot. Do more than design, I use the word so much. Object even more the word thing. Then okay, product Etymology. Latina producer. I lead towards a direction. And already this thing here gives me a little happiness, no, because I would like to work in all directions. And then I said to myself, but we are with the egocentrism of any architect. I am a product. That is, they are a product of Radical chick from Milan. Are a product of Milan Polytechnic. And my answer was no, I am not a product of things like this. I have my independence. And then I went, of course, on the pages of Zingarelli. Vocabulary of the Italian language. And I read produce, because product is the past participle of producing. And there are four possible attempts, that is to give birth to, bear fruit after a natural process, tree that produces many fruits, a soil that produces only wheat, the region produces wine and all. Here the earth produces little. This sheep has produced many lambs. This is first definition, for which there is this kind of mandatory, that things happen in a terrible way, when maybe things would be fine, that were not conditioned from him. Extreme productivity fatigue. The second definition is to give as a result of a series of processes or man-made transformations. The mind produces a lot of iron. Wine is produced by social winery. The company produces garden furniture. With the sense of manufacturing, we no longer produce this article. We are inside of very conditional systems of rules. Third, way of understanding the word produce. Give life to put in place. With reference to intellectual creations. Hesiod produced great works. Musician painter who no longer produces. Fourth, a way of understanding the word produce. Cause a certain phenomenon. Entail a certain consequence. Or rather, his words produced amazement among those present. The explosion produced serious damage. And then an expression of Giambattista Vico. Ignorant men of the natural causes that produce things. And then a right after. There is the word gross domestic product. This word, this coefficient is very bad. That forces us all to always have great fears. Or the monetary value of the goods and services produced in 1 year. In the national territory to the horror of depreciations. Then this word, I do not know in the past how much had been used. Certainly it is a word that appears in a massive way with industrial civilization. With Marxism and capitalism. Men sentenced to produce. Lands condemned to produce. Life as to produce, and this productivity can be. Material can be waterproof. Can be cultural editorial. Craft art is a fact that transforms people and things in. Thank you. Elements of a market. And also the subject to study in the faculties of design and architecture is a truly deterministic matter because it closes within a single arrow at the opening of the project horizon. Equally diccacy for the product manager are words that I have always tried to avoid. Then is a deterministic word of development. Is a word of economics. Is not a word from anthropology. Would go replaced if you want. Look at things in a broader way. More anthropologically human. First we talked about listening. And they talked about narration. Here I believe that the project is a great listening. And based on that listening, you can give answers. As well as things are all part of a narrative. When I make an object, enters the world. New just born. Undergoes a life. Develops tension relationships. The object can be beautiful, ugly, good, but is part of 80. of a character system. Objective presence among human presences. This pro in front of the product. This pro in front of the project. There is also the pro in front of protecting. So everything should probably be wrapped. That protected things, for people to protect themselves, reciprocally then A. I will continue not to talk about product. A in this exhibition that is here next door. I gave the title, What Things We Are. I was thinking if you had called it, What Products We Are, would be a real disaster. And those things I got there, that I put there about 900 things, 896 things. I don't even call them objects. I call them things because they are. With this definition, one thing more. Wider more A. H immediate. To be received as an osmotic system. Within the cosmos. I wanted to ask Alessandro Mendini, in this era that seems to have buried A. the ideologies of reference, also design ones. It seems that the ideas instead have more and more happened. There is a hunger for these ideas. What is a project idea you can get today? Then maybe it's not even like that. These ideologies are still there. There is ideology as you. Vocabulary law, there are no more. That the type of definition that is related to a utopian hypothesis linked to content. A certainly of ideas there are must-see there. Quality and had to parry. Because sometimes ideas are very social are completely ephemeral are linked. At need for desire for transformation at all costs. An exuberance of excessive ideas. In my opinion, it is a mistake. Well, in that sense, she has always worked with an alphabet of sign. A certain consistency. A still apply. Applies them again are important fundamental. That is yes, my way of working is through Scenic alphabets. A that means a simulo. I pretend that the project is. And then I write it. I write it with signs A that represent aesthetic facts, emotional facts, geometric facts, content facts, because the alphabets I use after are also many, intertwined. And it is my way of operating. My way of dealing with the project. is related to the sign. A that then also leads the decoration. It's like putting a glass on top of objects. I tend to romanticize objects. This question leads directly to another question. You defined yourself once as a prototype designer, no way. I'll do them today, and if you were to do a magazine today, yes, perhaps in-depth analysis of the project. How would you? Remember, for those who do not know, which has been that sixth state director of Way, of Casabella, of Domus, not necessarily in this order, and other productions also a little more experimental. Yes, okay, it is true. The writings were for me is a fundamental moment in my life. Corresponded to ideologies. Ideologies here, those were ideological expressions. Now criticism is no longer ideological. Eye of the great media. Very useful. I read a lot of them. But watch out for this of information then. I also leads the indigestion, also a little stewed. The magazine that I did today is not there. Because I wouldn't know how to make it anymore. Because I don't even care about making it anymore. But if I had to make one, I would do it holistic. That facts that exceed the project. And tending to be kind of a pantheism of vision here. Pantheism of vision in a very, very broad sense. To make one small clarification, Giorgio Bocchi in a recent interview with Fazio declared that by now the newspapers, and therefore printing in general, the publisher no longer does it but the advertisement does it. You have worked a lot, even with companies that were advertisers, are advertisers of these productions. I am interested in probing the relationship that you have moreover companies and the possibility that these new publishers, in quotation marks, can give this world. Advertising. In our profession, that is, in architecture and design, it is, in quotation marks, beautiful. That is, there is the rhetoric of beautiful. Especially in automotive advertising, for which cars come from the sky are very. They only do good now. And they get excited becoming a stars now. So this rhetoric is heavy, no is heavy, and then has limits, even laughable. A different thing is the contact with companies that I had and that happened to me. To work with companies. Extremely interesting, high quality, who conduct speeches also of type A. Social, of which tall of life and quality of objects surrounding the micro-environment of Nan. Here we return a little to design adage. A quality for everyone in a way. Even if you are gone, return a few times to this thing. Yes, this too. A little exists, a little is an aspiration. A little is a forgotten thing. That is not that the times are. Roses in no way. A question about the figure of the designer. I realize that the great masters and also the young recruits of the project, many are soloists. In reality, the young designers, and you have formed so many here in your studio, tend to consonate. According to you, it is a speech of formal coherence, and of impatience or non-sharing of certain. A target compared to other designers. This is an era. Some can say soloists. Others must say unfortunately lonely. Because is not a period of groups. Large groups have also existed in the avant-garde. There was futurism with its groups. Then there was also the new avant-garde. The group. The chemistry group. Then these groups have disappeared and they all knew. Destined in A. Almost intimate escapes. A. Because there is not a common ground on which A. find similar ideals. Maybe now, or rather, must reappear in such a situation. A will reappear. At this time there is no. Is A of the moment? Yes. Compared to steel instead, that has reopened a little the interest of ordinary people in certain issues. You designed museums, you designed public and private commonplaces. Obviously, you have recently delivered a project for a new fair. How difficult it is to do. For example, a place like a fair. We know about the controversy also of new and beautiful fairgrounds that then maybe logistically denounce incompleteness. This moment indeed. In the last decade, there have been some very good architects. These star arcs that have capabilities of feminism, of the architectural composition related to the means. Electronic very high. So great technology and great quality. Sculptural. These objects catapulted to any point in the world. Then they almost become no bombing on the ground. That are uprooted from the real, and in which are inserted, for which there is good and also great happiness. Within this way of understanding architecture, so much so that there are reactions also. For example, the Italian pavilion, age to the biennial, and then other facts that happen in the world are much more connected. Returning to local cultures. The Great Fair Center that we are doing near Soli is an extremely complicated object, but also from the point of view economic, social and political in Korea that enjoys and suffers from the criticism I said. So it is very difficult to do it and do it well. Between designing instead a museum, a fair, of a center, industrial recovery of a former industrial site. What did you enjoy the most, or did you feel like doing more willingly? As more transportation, the things I do with more transportation are those that are not realized. That is, those that remain. Of ideas or dreams, those contain many things. A little years ago, many years ago, came out a book entitled Unfortunate Project. Reality in your projects. There is always a declaration that then is real metaphorical meta of hedonism. Therefore, past the term of a research of a certain, we know how they relate to these two things. Happiness and unhappiness in a project. But I by my nature am a pessimistic person. But the project already implies optimism in the word itself. So it seems to me to have to be my project oscillates between the tragicomic no. That is, there is the way to laugh, making humor, doing the object, and the way linked to the consciousness that today we live only on wars, of tensions, of meanness, and therefore you stand there working in the difficult. So the project is to work in the difficult, in a sense. Sure, you really work in the difficult. Thanks to Alessandro Mendini. Milan is a little ugly and violent. Increasingly perfected. This is my goal.